right, so Scott, now that we're done with Module 3, what are some of the key takeaways that you would say that are in this module?
Yes, the key takeaway is, as it relates to buyers, simply think of them as your ultimate customer. In that sense, your best customer is often defined as one of your largest customers. It's one of the ones you have the closest relationships with, those types of things. By that definition, your buyer is going to pay you more than any of your other customers. And in order to complete a successful transaction, you will need to interact with them more than any other customer.
I like that analogy because almost all of Helium 10 sellers have spent an incredible amount of time researching their customers' needs and then designing listings to highlight how their products benefit their buyers. So essentially, it's the same thing with you and the exit process. You are learning about what the buyers need and then designing the business listing basically to highlight how your business is going to benefit them long term.
Yep, exactly. And if we take that analogy one step further, then you realize that different customers are buying your products for different reasons, of course. For example, if we were selling headlamps, somebody might see your product as a camping headlamp, where somebody else might see it as a headlamp for home repair. It's the exact same thing with buyers. If your overall business is selling headlamps in the United States, one buyer might see it as an opportunity to sell all kinds of other camping or product-related equipment toward that, whereas another buyer might see it as an opportunity to sell the exact same products in new marketplaces such as Amazon Europe or off Amazon or other places.
It seemed to us that the concept of buyer yield is really an important takeaway. Is that right? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Buyer yield is essentially a fancy word for saying this is the mathematical definition of what a buyer calls a win. And technically, it would even be more accurately expressed as the buyer yield divided by their perceived risk in the deal. Because if a buyer is projecting a 40% yield on each of two different types of businesses that they could buy, and one of them is twice as risky as the other, maybe that's due to market conditions or competitive things or ratings and reviews, those types of things, that buyer is going to take that estimated yield and divide it by their level of perceived risk, and they'd be far more likely to go forward with the less risky investment, even though they might return the same amount of buyer yield.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's go ahead and talk about Module 4. What's coming up in Module 4?
Sure. Module 4 is all about what you do to increase the value of your company before you go to market. But it's not going to be about operational things that you can do, such as optimizing PPC and all of those types of things. Frankly, you've already got all of that in the Freedom Ticket program and all of the great Helium 10 tools that are out there. In Module 4, we're going to talk about creating what we call quantum valuation leaps through something called corporate development. In layperson's terms, corporate development simply means activities that you engage in when you're working on the business, not inside of the business. So it includes things like how do you best scale your team and how do you align the incentives of those team members. It'll include things like how do you raise capital for the company, either through debt or how do you bring in a minority investor on the equity side. The purpose of any and all corporate development activities is thinking about your business with the ability to increase the valuation by being able to have it scale faster than if you had to do everything yourself. What you're going to find is that most businesses that achieve a premium valuation have put some emphasis or focus on corporate development.
That sounds like a very important topic. We have a lot of sellers that wonder about how to do those types of things. So let's go ahead and get into Module 4.